All right. So KRS-One said this one thing about hip hop, what was going on at that time. And it's interesting that he kind of made mention that this was some old stuff that went way back that was being brought forward. Now, you know, KRS-One is Jamaican. I think he's Jamaican from the Caribbean. But, you know, neither here or there. But at the same time, you know, it was interesting in what he was saying. So check it out.
To just cap that point by seeing if you could, for this show, give us the lyrics to Hip Hop Lives. Because I got them written down if you don't got them.
No, wait.
The Marley Marl, because you and Marley Marl, you went against it was the Bridge Wars, what they call it, right? But you and Marley and Shan had this thing. And then a lot of people, I think, in hip hop, even people who claim to really know hip hop, don't know that you and Marley did an album together.
Oh, yes. Hip Hop Lives.
Hip Hop Lives. And when you talk about hip hop being an intelligent movement,
yes,
it's very important.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
So here it is. It starts off like this. Well, Marley comes in and cuts and goes, I come back every year, I get newer. And he keeps cutting that up just for those out there. So now I start. Hip means to know. It's a form of intelligence. To be hip is to be update and relevant. Hop is a form of movement. You can't just observe a hop. You got to hop up and do it. Hip and hop is more than music. Hip is the knowledge. Hop is the movement. Hip and hop is intelligent movement or relevant movement. We're selling the music. Write this down on your black books and journal. Hip, hop, culture is eternal. Run and tell all your friends. An ancient civilization has been born again. It's a fact. I come back every year. I get newer. I'm the dust on the moon.
It's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. It's man, that's like my blueprint right there. Not pun intended. That's like my blueprint right there.
No big pun intended.
Yeah, no big pun intended. And on that record, you say that you are indebted to Shan and Marley, that they gave you a career.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Whenever I discuss my career, Shan's name gets brought up. And I'm going to carry that too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to carry that.
I want to just.
Nope, not that one. Let's get that one. Let's go here.
Vegetables can actually pull sugar out of your blood. If you're dealing with high blood sugar or diabetes, adding these 5 vegetables into your meals can make a big difference. And you can find
mute up.
all of these pretty much in every grocery store. First up, we have kale. It's loaded with fiber and antioxidants that actually hold back glucose and prevent it from flooding into your bloodstream. Next, Brussels sprouts. They're high in vitamin C, fiber, and antioxidants that actually help your cells respond better to insulin so they can pull out glucose out of your bloodstream. Next, we have okra, which some people call nature's blood sugar sponge. That sticky sugar inside helps slow down sugar from hitting your bloodstream. Try it grilled or in soups. Next, we have spinach, but make sure you apply heat to reduce the oxalates by up to 90%. It's super low in carbs, but rich in magnesium. And magnesium is like a secret weapon, helping your cells use insulin more effectively. The more effective your insulin, the less glucose stuck in your blood. Add to omelets, soups, or even pastas. Next is broccoli. It contains sulforaphane, a plant compound that repairs blood vessels from blood sugar damage. Some vegetables can actually pull sugar out of your blood. If you're dealing with high blood sugar or diabetes, adding these 5 vegetables into your meal.
Look at this. Before we start doing cover calls to make you a millionaire, you have to learn how to get tax money money.
Okay.
3 tax buckets.
Tax now, tax later, tax never.
What's tax now?
Tax now is your income,
Your earned income.
your earned income.
Who gets taxed the most?
W-2,
And then who gets taxed the most after that?
day traders,
Who gets taxed the least?
the least, self-employed people, and real estate investors.
Why?
Because they have a write-off.
Correct. What is tax later?
Tax later is their capital gain and 401k.
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 Why is that?
Because I do not know that. Can you explain?
Because the government wants to tax you once you have a lot of it. That's how they make money.
Yeah.
And then what's tax never?
Tax never is a life insurance policy when you're dead, and also your Roth IRA. Get one, kids.
So because that's a strategy, what we're going to do with our cover call money, we take our premium and we're going to open a couple different accounts. With our premium, we're going to open a Roth IRA and then we're going to grow our Roth IRA so we don't pay taxes later on in retirement. Also, we're going to buy asset growing stocks where we're never going to sell and those assets are going to grow. And when we need the money in the future, we can borrow against it. So if we borrow against our stocks, it's not a taxable event. We don't pay taxes on it. And what we do is we get a life insurance policy. And when we die, that insurance policy that's not taxed pays off the loan. And that's how we minimize our taxes. So that's how we're going to grow our money using cover calls. And now you know how the 3 tax bucket work.
Man.
Enzo.
And I think you are eloquently putting this together, this theory, but I have a really hard time considering the landscape we're in. Obviously, I'm born and raised here in Ohio. I believe in my state. I'm in this seat because of that. But we are in a moment where voting rights are being rolled back on and repealed. We've seen the Supreme Court decision. You mentioned Hawaii and Virginia, but you failed to mention like Tennessee, for example, where these are very targeted racist attacks, I believe, on the repeal of what our civil rights leaders fought for. And I believe that we have an opportunity here in Ohio to lead by example by not joining in on what we're seeing happening across the country. But it seems as though you're actually jumping on this bandwagon of taking us back. I understand that this isn't necessarily a new law, right? Which also begs the question of So why now? Why do we need this? If our boards of elections are doing a good job at making sure that folks are voting where they need to be, they have their valid licenses and all of the things. But you don't use those examples of some of the states that are using this, in my opinion, in a much more nefarious way. And I don't want to relay that on you, but I do want you to answer for it in this moment, because it just seems disappointing that we get this op-ed from Vivek, and we have this hearing from you all, but we're supposed to believe that this is because of a Quinnipiac poll or you talking to your stakeholders, and it's not just jumping on a national narrative. I'm disheartened by this.
Y'all knew this? Am I the only one that didn't? Because it's self-explanatory, but I never knew. I never knew. I never knew.
A few years later, Adam grew this from seed. So let's chop her down. This is kind of full circle for me. Because at one point, I would have thrown this away. But look at that. Look at all those sunflower seeds. Beauty and how Mother Nature just keeps on giving back. Now go and grow. Who remembers this video?
Now, did anybody know that? I still got that thing up there. Did anybody know that? Yeah, exactly. Oh, dude said there's some elevator music. Hey, look, did anybody know that? You look at all these sunflowers, and they got all them sunflower seeds behind it. That's crazy. That's a trip. Man, that is a trip right there. They got me right there. Them sunflower seeds come right behind that. Just peel up, man, that's crazy. That's wild. Okay.
Hey y'all, hey, it's me, Auntie Bucky, and this is what I deem as news. Cyber attacks on the U.S. water system has people thinking, doomsday here?
She looks just like my niece. And when you see her, just in the face, just how my niece looks. My niece is a little bit darker than her, though. She looks just like my niece. Pretty much the only reason why I'm playing it. But she got some good information. She looks just like my niece.
Should I be collecting rainwater? Is that why the billionaires been building these bunkers? What's really going on? 400,000 white people are in a Facebook group saying that they spit in black people's food when they come to Texas Roadhouse and restaurants like that. Guess what? Auntie Ben tell y'all, we got food at home.
What would make somebody want to spit in somebody's food just because of their skin color? Like, how diabolical is that? Like, for real, what did the blacks do to you for you to hate us so much? To the fact that you'll take a job somewhere and spit in people's food as you bring their orders out.
Some of y'all had your panties in a little bunch because Auntie didn't have a bra on in her last post.
Guess what? Most of my posts are not wearing a bra. I'm not wearing one now. You know why? Because I'm para-MF menopausal. Okay? And I've been binding my bosoms for 48.
That's enough of that. That's what I said. She went off on a tangent. That's crazy. That's what they doing in Texas. They spitting in people's food. Yeah, he gambling. Gambling would take out food these days. Gambling.
Book, The Real Anthony Fauci.
Hold on.
Bill Gates, Big Pharma, and the global war on democracy and public health. Robert Kennedy Jr. crafts a harrowing narrative of the man behind public health policy for the last 40 years, coming into the spotlight once again during the COVID situation. The book details many of Anthony Fauci's crimes going all the way back to the early 1980s, from withholding legitimate and inexpensive AIDS treatments in exchange for more profitable and lethal alternatives to horrendous experimentation on African civilians. It is difficult for good-natured souls to comprehend the depths of the depravity that this so-called hero possesses. One of the more shocking revelations comes in Chapter 7, entitled Dr. Fauci, Mr. Hyde, NIAID's Barbaric and Illegal Experiments on Children. None of this information is new. In fact, it was detailed in several mainstream publications, including the Associated Press, and in a 2004 BBC documentary entitled Guinea Pig Kids, which was based on the fearless research of human rights activists Vera Sharav, along with journalists Liam Sheff and Celia Farber. New York's child welfare agency, known as the Administration for Children's Services, or ACS, is notorious for its far-reaching legal authority to kidnap children from their parents with very little cause.
They're essentially out of control. I've had many ACS caseworkers tell me, we're ACS, we can do whatever we want, and they usually get away with it.
In 1992, Fauci's team, with the help of ACS, descended on Incarnation Children's Center in New York City, which housed orphans who were HIV positive. Fauci saw this as a goldmine of test subjects who were conscripted as lab rats for a new generation of experimental AIDS drugs. The most vulnerable children in society were the ones that Fauci's team targeted. Vera Sharav, Holocaust survivor, human rights activist, and the founder of the Alliance for Human Research Protection, explains.
You would not expect too many parents to volunteer their loved children for such experiments. This means that if the researchers want to do the experiment on children, they're going to look for vulnerable children.
New book, The Real Anthony Fauci, Bill Gates.
You're thinking of taking Doris Miller's name off a warship and replacing it with Trump? Okay, hold up, because this story has layers. So the Pentagon is reportedly considering removing the name Doris Miller from a future U.S. Navy aircraft and potentially replacing it with Donald Trump's name. And I'm sorry, but before we even get into the politics, you need to know who Doris Miller was. Doris, aka Dory Miller, was a black sailor from Texas who joined the Navy in 1939. At the time, the Navy was divided, racially segregated. Black sailors were largely restricted to low status jobs, including like mess attendants, cooks, being in the kitchen. That's what Miller was doing aboard the USS West Virginia on December 7th, 1941. Yep, Pearl Harbor. When the Japanese attack began, Miller helped carry wounded sailors to safety, including his mortally wounded captain. And then he was ordered to operate an anti-aircraft machine gun. Now here's the crazy part. He wasn't trained to use that gun. Why? Because black sailors weren't even allowed to serve in many of the positions that would have given them that type of training. But Miller got on that gun anyways and fired a Japanese aircraft during the attack. Miller became a national symbol, but the Navy initially didn't recognize him properly because of a deeply segregated military. Eventually, he was later awarded the Navy Cross for his heroism, becoming the first black recipient of the Navy's second highest military decoration at the time. But Miller didn't make it home. In 1943, his ship was torpedoed by a Japanese submarine. He was 24 years old. So fast forward to 2020, the Navy announces that one of the newest and most powerful aircraft carriers will be named the USS Doris Miller. And this was historic. He would become the first African American to have a U.S. aircraft carrier named after him. They deliberately made the announcement at Pearl Harbor on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s day. Here's what makes the story even more unusual. The president, when that carrier was named, Donald Trump. When he was president in 2020, he was actually in office when the Navy named the carrier after Doris Miller.
Last month, the Navy announced that the next American aircraft carrier will bear the proud name of USS Doris Miller. That's pretty good.
And essentially joked.
They won't give me that honor. That's a big boat. That's a big ship. One day, maybe.
But now, 6 years later, we're hearing that the Navy is considering taking Miller's name off that carrier and naming it after Trump. Why? Apparently, the argument is that aircraft carriers should primarily be named after presidents, admirals, or major naval figures. Okay. So then why can't Trump get the name of another ship? There's also an important historical wrinkle. Trump will be the first sitting president ever to have a U.S. aircraft carrier named after him. That would be unprecedented. And there's another wild twist. Miller is reportedly being considered for something even bigger, the Medal of Honor, America's highest military award. To be fair, this isn't a done deal, but the discussions are reportedly happening. The ship represented something. A black sailor that was denied opportunities because of segregation ended up becoming a symbol of courage for the entire country. And now we're talking about taking his name off that ship? Yeah, I'm gonna need somebody to explain that one. So wait, there are things
just came out of the White House. If your kids have ever had Gatorade, Skittles, Fruit Loops, or any brightly colored American snack, then you need to pay attention to this. Yesterday, PepsiCo officially announced Gatorade is removing every FD&C artificial dye from its formula. Red 40, yellow 5, yellow 6, blue 1, replaced with plant-based colors from fruits and vegetables. And this is not happening by accident. Last April, the health secretary and the FDA commissioner announced the federal plan to phase 8 petroleum-based dyes out of the American food supply by the end of 2026. They are pulling authorization on 2 of them completely. They are pressuring food companies to voluntarily remove the rest. The science on these dyes, it's not new. Red 40 has literally over 30 peer-reviewed studies linking it to hyperactivity and behavioral issues in children. Europe, Canada, Australia, and Japan have either banned these dyes or required warning labels on products that contain them. 4 years. America was the last holdout. Almost 40% of the packaged food supply in this country has now officially publicly committed to removing these dyes. Campbell's, Nestle's, PepsiCo, this is happening fast, and it's happening because of consumer pressure combined with federal follow-through. Read every single label, guys. Seed oils are probably next. Ultra-processed foods is after that. I mean, the shift is real. Your instincts were right. Comment unlimited, and I'll send you my free masterclass to tap in deeper about this type of information.
That's diabolical. You telling me that I've been eating that cream of mushroom soup. I've been eating that cream of mushroom soup in the Campbell's can all this time, thinking that thing was good. Because I would put some cream of mushroom soup, that little gravy part. Yup, throw some water in there, soup it up a little bit. I'll put that on my rice. I put that on my dressing. Put that damn near on everything. Man, that's crazy. It's ridiculous, man. Look at what they be doing to us, and they still can't stop us. They didn't put all this crazy stuff in, like Nestle, Pepsi. I mean, you know, we all didn't touch that thousands of times in our lifetime. We still here. These people are diabolical. Now, I seen something, though. Take note of this. I seen something. That most of that stuff that they put out there, they can eat that stuff. Like, it's good for their body. Like, it don't do nothing for them. That's why they eat a lot of bread, a lot of cheese. That's why they like them big, thick old bagels and cheese and milk, and they like that. I mean, that's good for them. We can't. Man, cream of mushroom soup, that's gone. Now I got to find something else. Read the labels. Like the genius says. Got to read the labels. Bingo. These people are diabolical, man. Sick puppies. What I call them? Sick puppies. What's up, Engine? Engine Radio. Max V. Man. Enos. Oh, dude, man. These people are diabolical. I wonder what they be on. Just thinking about all this stuff. You know what I mean? I know they had to be frustrated over all this time. That's probably why they had to do that super pandemic thing. They was like, man, we can't kill these things. Boy, we can't kill. Sheesh.
Just wait, brothers and sisters. The next 100 years is gonna be a whole lot easier for us colored folk. All we got to do is sit and wait. Wait on the Lord and shout hallelujah.
No, you know he didn't say anything like that. But what he did say makes a whole lot more sense than that stuff you pulled down there in that change booth.
I ain't letting no white man walk on me.
Prove that, all right.
And I ain't letting them walk on me. And that's why they hate my guts, and I hate them right back, all of them. In the Army, we used to sing Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition, and that's what we ought to be singing now. Not them hymns. We ought to hit them first, and hit them hard, and re-educate them later. Not us, them.
Arnold. Things are so changing, and you know it. Not much, maybe, but these things take time. You've got to give them a chance.
Wait! That's what you're talking about, wait. Well, I got news for you, baby. We ain't got time to wait. You can march and you can picket and you can legislate from here to hell and back. But you'll never see the day. We're in a war, baby. And when you're in a war, you gotta fight. When you want changes, you gotta spill blood. Any white man look at me cross-eyed and he's got one-way ticket to the graveyard.
You don't mean that. You don't mean that, because they'd shoot you down.
Well, if I can take care of a few of them in the meantime, that's all I want. That's all I want.
Wait on the Lord. Yeah. He said he ain't want to look at me cross-eyed. That's 1967, that movie right there. That woman right there played the mama in American Gangster, Denzel. We remember that face right there, that brother right there, but just saying. That's 67. What is it? 2026? What's that? We almost on 60 years since that movie. 60 years since that movie. Change? Yeah, I got some change in my pocket. Let's keep it going.
Actually, America is marked as Africa. And
All right now. This is I'm in my quote unquote white people kryptonite bag right now. About to listen to some white folks. All right.
Africa is named Lemuria. And I know we've been speaking about Egypt being actually in America, and that made me think about maybe there's some anomalies with the map. So in this map, which looks like an ancient map, but I don't know if it's an authentic map, but the fact, yeah, very interesting that America potentially could be the real Africa. We know that the Grand Canyon, there's a lot of signs that is either the real Egypt or part of Egypt. So what are your thoughts about the fact that there could be actually an incorrect naming of the continents?
So that map is from another version of Earth. So we have no idea what the map really looks like. And I'm pretty bad at geography. Like the names were just different in that space.
And on this map, you can see how that what it was Africa now depicted as Lemuria can perfectly fit into that North and South America bit. Actually, America is marked as Africa. And
now, just to kind of touch on this just a little bit. Now, of course, been a lot of talks about that, in the little circles that we deal with, that, we have found that there are places, everybody talks about the Grand Canyon, pyramids down there. Plenty of people have talked about hieroglyphs or the metal netter on walls here in America. Names here in certain cities and states. They got ancient names. There's maps with Africa on it. And even in the Kemetic talks, all the Kemetic teachers back then, 30, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, called ancient Egypt Ta-Meri. So we know there is a relationship. But, you got to put some people out there, right? The first woman that was talking, she got the little British accent. So they're talking about this stuff, though. None of your business. What's going on, sister? Missed you yesterday. But they're talking about this a lot. They're talking about America a lot. And the whole, when she mentioned, the key thing what she mentioned is they're saying that the how they changed Africa from being over there to actually being in America. Now she's using the word Africa loosely, you know what I'm saying? Because that's the popular term. This is where I say some of these terms can be utilized to make your final point. You see what I'm saying? To make your point. Well, since you call it that, and we know we're relating it to all the to the landmass, the geographic landmass. So you actually put Africa over somewhere else in order to do what? To make America considered to be a new world with people that are primitive in the sense of not being highly intelligent to build vast structures and the ingenuity of everything, the engineering, the creations, the advancement, the technology, all that was erased from America. And it was moved other places, everywhere else. So as they had that map, they say Africa, Asia, all these places right here. So we know for an example that they made what you would consider to be Hindustan, or over there in what we consider to be Asia, the eastern part of Asia, they will say India. They changed the name to India, Hindustan, but it wasn't even called Hindustan. It was called something else. It was with a B or some stuff like that. You see, they transferred and moved everything everywhere. And she just said it. This is what they're talking about, the maps, right? How they changed the maps. There's other people that talk about the maps being upside down. But right, that's right. That's right. Thank you. See, the longitudes and the latitudes, right? This is where you get into the sphere, right? You think about the sphere, the flat earth conversation. The earth is flat. The earth is round. It's a globe. It's like a basketball. But why do they call it the ocean floor? Anybody got a floor in their home where they live that goes up and down, that goes in a circle, that if you get to a certain point, you're going to just round off underneath it. Nowhere. See, this is what I was talking about yesterday about these crazy ass arguments people were having just to sound intelligent. But there's a reason why they call it the ocean floor. Okay? Or ocean floor. When you are walking on the grass, you're walking in a straight line. The lumps come based on the roots that is pushing the earth up and moving it around. But it starts off flat. That is common sense 101. If you understand mathematics, the quickest point from A to B is what? A straight line. You have length times width times height. There's nothing round in that. But they want to bring a circle in there. Okay, well, the circle could be something that could be a protection. But it's around like this, and it's flat. They pull everything out into a 3D. You got a 2D, 3D, 4D, whatever, and it goes in that whole little nature. But even in our makeup, in our body, it's flat. It initially starts out flat. When you're young, everything is flat. You in top shape, everything. When that stomach get big, that means you got stuff in there that need to come out. Trust me, I just lost 40 pounds. And it was painful. But you know what happened? Flat now. 8-pack back. You see what I'm saying? I tell you about these crazy ass conversations people be having, borderline psycho. But I wonder how people, let me tell you how people lose debate. They can't stay on topic. If I can move you somewhere, if I can move you like a pawn into a place and I can take you where I want you to go, guess what? You lose. You now belong to me. I'm in full control. But you have these people right here that they do this for, and they get paid millions of dollars to do this research. They're not just doing this for fun. They get paid. But see, the one thing that is funny is that nobody will pay attention, and they know this. This is what's been going on all the time because we so busy butting heads with each other that the information can't deposit. Goes through one ear and out the other because you're ready to fight. You see? And they know that. The information is there. Why remix it? Why try to reinvent the wheel? Who knows? They said back in the ancient times that the earth was a sundial. It was a sundial. And it moved like a clock. Hence, the representation of a clock. What is it? It is flat. And it moves with the sun. It is connected and it is in sequence with the sun. As the sun moves, the clock moves. As the world moves, really not the sun, but as the world moves, the clock moves. All right? That's my spill on it. I'm just talking from common sense position. They talk about the earth is round. The earth is round. How? What the young people say? How, Sway? How's that possible? Well, you see all this and all that. Well, that's earth and things moving up. Well, other people say these are the ancient giants that have pretty much got hit in the flood. And see how this shit go? We go all over the place with this conversation. Wow. You know what I'm saying? So let's continue with the white kryptonite. Y'all don't want to listen to me. Not y'all, but other people. They don't want to listen to me. I just try to keep it simple. You know what I mean? Let's continue.
Excellent. But the number one, thing before they can even start talking is they do not have jurisdiction over you.
No. Courts cannot act with jurisdiction or personal jurisdiction.
Correct.
Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2. All cases which the state has become a party, the jurisdiction the Supreme Court shall have
original jurisdiction. That's excellent. But the number one, thing before they can even start talking is they do not have jurisdiction over you.
No. Courts cannot act with jurisdiction or personal jurisdiction.
Correct.
Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2. All cases which the state has become a party, the jurisdiction the Supreme Court shall have
original jurisdiction. That's excellent.
We are bringing about cases and we're pushing back the federal courts, the magistrates, and the state court judges because none of these banks have the note. They can't produce the note. They never will produce the note. And because of that, all these attorneys are filing wrongful foreclosures with the clear intent of perpetuating a foreclosure whenever they don't have standing to do so, right? Because.
Did y'all hear any of that? I know. No, yeah, I did it again. Damn. One of these days, I'm gonna make it through a video without do a show without doing that. All right, gotta come back. Damn. Man, I took that. That's cool. We'll just keep it pushing on that. Yep, did it again. Did it again. All right, my bad.
We are bringing about cases and we're pushing back the federal courts, the magistrates, and the state court judges because none of these banks have the note. They can't produce the note. They never will produce the note. And because of that, all these attorneys are filing wrongful foreclosures with the clear intent of perpetuating a foreclosure whenever they don't have standing to do so, right? Because they don't have standing to do so, guess what? The courts lack subject matter jurisdiction, invalidates the entire claim. We're winning. And I just want to bring that good news. And if they
Let me do this real quick. Let me go frame by frame on this one, so I ain't got to keep jumping back around. Now, what I want to address here with this and the last one, I think you guys heard it, but no video. You said sound is good, okay, but yeah. So Article 3, Section 2, right? Where the state is a party, and I'm about to listen to me closely. Let me sit up and get out of my comfort zone right here. All right. All right, check it out. In these situations going across the board, right? This is why I need you guys to understand, because I know somebody knows somebody or is direct in line with her or with or in direct line with or connection with or relation with somebody that's locked up. Number one, you got Article 6 of the Constitution, right? That's the supremacy clause. You also got Article 7. Showed the other video where the administrative law judges is bringing back Article 7, right? The Article 7 Act. No, not, my bad. The 7th Amendment Act. Article 6 deals with the supremacy clause. Article 3 deals with the judicial branch, right? Anytime you have an issue before the trial, during the trial, or after the trial, once you get into the knowledge of knowing something, right? This is under federal rules of civil procedure. It's called Rule 60, right? At any point in time, you got Rule 60, one through all the way through, one all the way through, right? Once you get to a point where you find out that the court lacks subject matter jurisdiction, the Latin term is a quorum non judice, right? Without a judge. They're incompetent. They're an incompetent court. But that's no disrespect. That's what the law says. That's what case law says. This is what the Supreme Court says. If a court lacks subject matter jurisdiction, they're an incompetent court, meaning they're not competent to hear the matter. And it's all based off of Rule 12 of Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. In the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, this is just from my experience in my studies and what I've been through, what I study. So, not an attorney or anything like that. Corpus juris secundum. Let's say that other one was corpus juris secundum. Hey, it takes a while. You got to practice this stuff. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, leave me alone. So anyway, once you understand, right, that's under Rule 12, right? Rule 12 deals with motions to dismiss, right? So motion to dismiss is based on quite a few things. The one thing that's the popular one is Rule 12b-6. But there's Rule 12b-1 all the way down, I think it's to 12, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll just go with the first 6 or 7. All right. I'll pull those up in a minute. But just talking about it. In the state courts, right? So in the state courts, it's the same thing. Failure to state a claim where relief can be granted. What does that mean? That means that the court isn't a competent court to hear the matter because it lacks subject matter jurisdiction. The court lacks subject matter jurisdiction. Right, for whatever proceeding. Now, when we get into the part where the new wrinkle is you deal with administrative law judges. So we dealing with administrative law judges, and you're coming into that court, assuming that it's an Article 3 court, which means that they're independent of all the other facets of the articles, which is Article 2 and Article 1. You bring a case, and then initially what the other side will do is they'll do a motion to dismiss for failure to state a claim. But in the situation of a mortgage, because the mortgage is the easiest way to make the example, you bought the house. You are an owner with interest in the land, as your documents state. It will show that you paid X amount of dollars. So that means you have interest in the land. You are a home owner, and you have protections. After 5 years, you have homestead protections in California. You also have Homeowners Equity Protection Act or Equal Protection Act, which they call HOPA or HUEPA. You have all these different, you got Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act. You have all these things that you could bring. Adverse possession, quiet title. All of these are common law, not all of them, but the last two I said, plus the homestead and home equity protection, all that falls under common law and equitable law. If a court dismisses that case for failure to state a claim where relief can be granted, and you showed that you own the house and have interest in the land, then that is an incompetent court to hear it. You see what I'm saying? Now, let's do it on the flip side. So this is you coming in as a plaintiff. Let's flip it on the other side, where somebody comes into court, like the guy was saying, like somebody comes into court and says that, hey, we want to do a foreclosure because they haven't paid their bill. And then you come back with a motion to dismiss for failure to state a claim where relief can be granted. Or you do a motion to quash, saying that this court is last subject matter and personal jurisdiction. Why? Because the attorneys are bringing claims that they haven't even validated or verified. They don't have firsthand knowledge. They don't have anybody that they brought into this matter that wrote a verified statement under penalty of perjury that they actually know me. They actually did the dealings with me from the beginning when I got this house. And they have valid proof that I owe a debt. More importantly, that they have interest in the land and they are a real party in interest. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, what we was talking about yesterday is just about how are you identifying me? Are you identifying me as a debtor, or are you identifying me as something else? Because at no point in time you have addressed me as a homeowner. This is where we get into also, like we was talking about the Negro law in South Carolina, is that you're making a claim against me under another identity. That's not me. But Congress is making claims, as I showed with HJR, with the suspension of the gold standard, and then the Indian Citizenship Act as well, that Congress is doing this. They're creating these acts and making these declarations. And it hasn't been approved. Can they show that the state signed off on these things? Or is all this being done federally through acts of positive law? People think positive law is always a good thing, but it's not. Positive law means it's still, it doesn't move. So that means it has no movement. That means it has no effect, the way I look at it. So that's the most important thing. So in a situation where you got somebody that's locked up or somebody that might be going through a trial, in any circumstances, when I say any, I mean any. So don't ask the question, well, what about this one? What about that? I said any. Before the trial, during the trial, or after the trial. If the court never, or if the DA, let's say the DA or any other attorney bringing a claim, if they have not expressed or pretty much established that this court has jurisdiction, that case is to be dismissed. If it's before the trial, dismiss. During the trial, dismiss. After the trial, vacate. You see what I'm saying? But this is the thing about the Article 3. If you're coming in with a claim with a penal sum on it and there's money behind it, it is a commercial crime. So you got commercial crimes and then you got civil issues. Right? Commercial crimes is dealing with something that, they consider to be a high crime. Right? White collar, blue collar, or otherwise. Now, if the state picks up the case, I was just talking to somebody about this earlier. If the state picks up the case, it is now saying that they have an interest in the matter. And if their name is on that heading, you can take that straight to the Supreme Court. You can ask for a retrial, or you can ask the whole thing to be vacated based on that fact, because you were never given, or I was never given full disclosure. And if I got a public defender on me and the public defender doesn't say that, then I got ineffective counsel and they are compromised because they are working with the other side. So that is a violation of the 14th Amendment, equal protection of the law, due process. Right? Civil rights, human rights. Because now you are subjecting me to peonage. You're subjecting me to labor for a fixed amount of years, and you're going to make money off of me at the same time. So, all right, we good? All right, let's go over here. Where we at next? Boom, boom. Nah, I ain't doing that one. All right, let's do that one. I got to do my Black August. Shout out. Let's go way back.
A lot of people don't know Black August. I don't know. Black August was in 1970. George Jackson. Oh, that's Black August. The reason why they call it Black August, man, because that was the bloodiest day and the most black men ever killed in the history of CDC. Any BGFs, like myself, you know what I'm saying, that's still affiliated with it, you remember that. We all, every August, we're supposed to wear something black, a stripe, in commemoration of George Jackson, which was, he was affiliated with the BGF. He's the one that really started it, you know, with Angela Davis,
Panther Party.
Panther Party and things like that. His fight, all right, a lot of people don't know Black August.
I don't know.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like that black has a lot of connotations to it. That's what I'm saying. People ain't using it right. But you know, a lot of them people that, was doing things with that. Where is it at here? All right. Let's go here real quick. We're gonna talk about this interest real quick. We're gonna talk about interest.
Fully comprehend the information in Title 26 of this section. Don't you also fully understand Section 16 of the Federal Reserve Act, subsection 1 and 2? And don't you also learn how to apply the information in 21.7.13.3.2.7.1 that you are a foreign person, regardless of where you are born, United States or not, and that you are not required to file a U.S. tax return? Don't you dare understand how to conduct yourself on the phone with the Internal Revenue agent, which will then establish you on the zero file list of entities not required to file. Don't you?
I'm gonna write that down. Those that are interested. Hold on a second. Let's write this down. Boom. So what we got? We got 21.7.13.3271. 12.7.13. What? 3271. 13.3.2.7.1. All right. We got it there.
Fully comprehend this information. In the day that you do, you will understand that that particular entity with that particular prefix EIN number on the zero file list avoids the tax computation worksheet. No longer do you apply yourself against the 22% through 37% tax filing tax brackets. What happens when you avoid the tax brackets? You can then receive this: $116,000
Okay, so let me do the whole screen here. Let's go to the window. Let's go look this stuff up directly. Those that are interested. If you're not interested, just kick back, chill, don't go nowhere. Now, 21. Where did it go? Foreign entities. Foreign entities. Where is it at? Damn, this thing long. Let's see here. There we go. All right, so what does it say right here? Foreign entities mailed in fax forms. SS4 for foreign entities are assigned EIN prefix 98 and are only processed by the Cincinnati International Unit. If a paper or fax application is received in a location other than Cincinnati, forward the form SS4 to Cincinnati for processing via fax. Fax number 855-215-1627. Telephone calls from foreign entities requesting an EIN are assigned EIN prefix 98 and are only worked by Cincinnati and Ogden International Units. If a call is received in any other location, provide the caller with the EIN international phone number 267-941-1099. Hours of operation 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. All right, fax number 855-215-1627. International fax number 304-707-9471. Beginning in October 2013, assisters staffing the international. All right, we don't need to worry about that. The table below provides legal definitions of both domestic and foreign entities. These definitions may be useful when trying to determine on a phone call whether the entity is domestic or foreign. The term domestic, when applied to a business entity, means created or organized in the United States or under the law of the United States or of any state, unless, in the case of a partnership, the secretary provides otherwise by regulations. A business entity created or organized both in the United States and in a foreign jurisdiction is a domestic entity. So, that's important. So, if you're creating this foreign entity, you got to make sure it stays foreign. So anything that's connected with that, a responsible party or otherwise, if it is filed as a domestic, it is domestic. All right. The term foreign, when applied to a corporation or partnership, means a corporation or partnership which is not domestic. See how simple that is? So everything within this field of the domestic applies here. So you make sure you follow these instructions here to make sure that you stay foreign. Domestic trust means a trust in which a court within the United States is able to exercise primary supervision over the administration of the trust, and one or more U.S. persons have the authority to control all substantial decisions of the trust. The term foreign trust means any trust other than a domestic trust described above. Domestic estate, any estate other than a foreign estate. The term foreign estate means an estate whose income is from sources outside the United States, not effectively connected with the conduct of a trade or business with the U.S. It is not includable in gross income. Under subtitle A, Chapter 1, Subchapter B, Part 2 of Title 26 of the United States Code. Use the table below when processing requests for international EIN received by mail. Okay. So here you go. So let's go here. If you guys are interested, I'm going to do this right here. You can copy. I'm going to copy and paste that. And I am going to put it in the chat if those that are interested in creating these trusts and getting in foreign status would like to do so. All right. Now, with that being said, I'm going to attempt to relate this to Negro law and the jurisdiction, subject matter jurisdiction, Rule 12, dealing with identity, with the suspect classification. Even in the domestic capacity that you are in, right? The key word is administer. The courts are to administer and make sure that these things are correct. And all it also means is that the Treasury has connection to that as well. So it's not really under all full faith and credit, separated from the United States. Certain things that you have are still connected in the United States. And I'm paraphrasing here. I don't want to get all technical. So we lining all this up. That's why I did all these at the end. We're lining all these up because one of the main issues is about the people's estate, people's land, abandoned lands, and how the Negro, how the suspect classifications come about, right? How the suspect classifications come about. I'm gonna bring that up. I think people are not really capturing what I'm trying to say about suspect classification. Okay. So in what we just read, right? So in what we just read, let's just go back to it real quick. In what we just read right here, it says here, where'd it go? Let's come back down. They have all these categories here: domestic corporation, partnership, or disregarded entity, foreign corporation or partnership, domestic trust, foreign trust, domestic estate, foreign estate. Now, in the circle of these conversations we had amongst this group that I frequent often, is trying to figure out how to get it back. Well, we got to figure out how these things were set up. As it been mentioned in oral arguments in the Supreme Court and other things that I showed, that Indians not taxed meant that you was not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. And the other people that mentioned it in the oral argument, they didn't mention Indians not taxed, but they mentioned that during that time, Indians were not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. In 1925, in 1926, 27, 28, 29, 30, 35, 65, 75, 85, 95, 2005, 2025, 2026. Those laws haven't changed. The only thing that changed was the money system. That's the only thing that changed. So, know this. If you are Indians not taxed, you're not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, you do not vote. You do not run for office. You do not work in the government at all, under no capacity. None of that. If you get an EIN number if you register with them, or if you register any businesses with the Interior, which should be done first and foremost before you go to the Treasury, you should register with the Interior. And you stay foreign that way. But if you go in there and if you want to get government contracts, you got to make sure you come in as what? As a foreign entity, and make sure you know this is a foreign. I'm outside your jurisdiction. I am foreign. Okay, so that is the most important thing that needs to be focused on. So if we want to deal with that and say, well, let's just hypothetically talk about our forefathers and foremothers in the estates, right? I had certain people show me their wills of their family wills they found in their research. How was these estates set up? We saw land patents that was registered. These land patents were registered when the United States expanded and got territory in those places. So when they got territory in those places, the people at that time, the indigenous people, set up land patents. They had these land patents set up to make sure, even though that they were there, they were still going to have their indigenous and foreign status and not to be trespassed upon. The certificates, the Indian Citizenship Act showed that these certificates, as I showed yesterday, that these certificates were issued in 2026 or 2027. Because the act was passed and then it usually doesn't take place until maybe 5 years later, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years later. But it was to issue certificates to Indians. What were these certificates? Nobody really addressed that. Maybe we should here. But if you read the language as I read it yesterday, it was voluntary if they wanted it. They don't say that in there, but they saying they're declaring that we're going to be issuing certificates to Indians, because obviously there was some conversation going on amongst these representatives and some of these people that were indigenous. It was like, wait a minute, man, these people keep trespassing upon us and y'all not doing nothing about it. That was the same situation dealing with not Roe v. Wade, but Brown versus education. She was issued a certificate. These certificates got you to go into these schools that were within United States territory. You guys got to understand the process of what was actually taking place. You got people that are making it into something that's more tragic than it was. That family decided to put their baby girl in a school with nothing but white people around them, so-called white people. She was the only one there. Why would you do that? There had to be something to it. These people that were fighting to get in, that was them people. Everybody wasn't doing that. And the old folks would tell you, he wasn't doing that. He had nothing to do with that. A lot of people didn't have nothing to do with Martin. A lot of people didn't have nothing to do with the Nation of Islam, the Nation of Yahweh, the Moorish Science Temple of America. All these movements back in the day, everybody wasn't dealing with that. There was people who was like, man, we ain't dealing with that. What was Bumpy doing? What was the Queen doing? What was all these major, all across the nation? They weren't in them movements, but they said, hey, man, you got an issue, man. We help you out. Nah, you can take that somewhere else. We ain't messing with that. You see? People want to take this to be like some type of one-stop shop. There ain't no one-stop shop. There was all kind of stuff going on. But anyway. Now, the other thing he brought up was this. It says Section 16 of notes issue. All right. Hold on. Let me make sure. Yep, I'm still good. You mentioned circular Section 16 notes issue. Look, all I'm trying to give you is another option. Another option. Do I need a 98 number to be foreign? No. That's if I want to do business. If I want to do business with the United States. Then I want to get these identifying numbers and do all that stuff. Those numbers, those instruments do not represent you. They are instrumentalities transmitting utilities, and vehicles for you to do whatever you need to do. Got it? Now, it says issuance of Federal Reserve notes, nature of obligation, where redeemable. Now, let's do this. Okay. Federal Reserve notes, HJR 192. All right. House Joint Resolution 192. Like I showed yesterday, the Bankruptcy Act. Nature of obligation. It said that the United States now are obligation. All debts are now obligations of the United States. Congress is the one that said that, us having to pay in gold and silver, that's messing up our game right now. That's messing up everything. So we're going to, by declaration, again, we're going to do this move. We're going to do this move in order to apply some other things, and we're going to bring in our own bank, our own central bank of the United States in order for us to do what we need to do. And that way we can, but in that, we're going to make sure that the United States now has the obligation to discharge, to payments, right? All debts, public and private. Federal Reserve notes, right? Lawful tender for all debts, public and private. Okay, obligation also. Nature of obligation is, right, 18 U.S.C. subsection 8, obligations or securities, that's what it says, obligations or securities of the United States. You also can reference 31 U.S.C. 5118 and 5119. Right? Now, where redeemable, that's 5119. 31 U.S.C. 5119 deals with the Secretary of the Treasury. The obligation deals with the United States. So redeemable, who redeems it? Okay, the Federal Reserve is the bank. But when the not Federal Reserve, the United States Treasury, the Treasury is the bank. The Federal, because you have the Treasury and you have a treasurer. Nobody talks about the treasurer. The treasurer does the minting, is control of the coin, right? The minting of coins. What is good, what is not good. If it don't come from the treasurer, don't come from the Treasury, it is forgery or it's a fraud. All right, now, well, it could be approved by the Treasury too, depending. So the other thing is you're dealing with, right, the Secretary of the Treasury, who deals with foreign affairs, right? All the governmental entities, all the funding of the governmental entities in all the states, local and statewide. They get their funding from the Treasury. The Treasury is a part of the executive branch. So that whole cabinet, Trump's whole cabinet, that is the executive branch. So you have the Treasury and then you have the Federal Reserve Bank. Those are two separate entities. The Federal Reserve Bank is ran through Congress because Congress is the one that actually dictates policy, right? They set policy through acts and all the other things that they do, legislature. So they dictate policy, and their bank is the Federal Reserve. So inflation and tax and all that stuff is connected with Congress. Why do you think the Continental Congress went down so fast? It started in 1773, 74, 75. It was done in 2 years. It was over. Didn't last long. This is why they brought in the other two branches, because in the beginning, there was only Congress. There was no executive branch, and there was no judicial branch that was recognized in the Continental Congress in their Articles of Confederation or Articles of Organization, whatever it was. I don't know. In their articles. I don't know where I saw that at, but I never forgot it. So Just want to get that straight. All right. Now, it says Federal Reserve notes to be issued at the discretion of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System for the purpose of making advances to Federal Reserve banks, advances to the Federal Reserve banks through the Federal Reserve agents as hereinafter set forth and for no other purpose are hereby authorized. So if they're advancing money, what is that? That's a loan. That means you're getting money on the premise that you're going to get people to come in and utilize your products. You're making offers in the public, advertising, marketing of what you're doing. And people come in and say, hey, I want to do business with you. Hey, it's going to cost you $100. Make that deposit, sign this security instrument. We're going to insure it up to $250,000 per quarter. And here you go. Now you didn't set up all these things. You got my identifying numbers. You got everything that you need. Connect to the birth certificate and Social Security. Boom, you take that. They take that to the window. They say, cool, bang, here's our secured credit. Or here's our secured collateral, I would say. Better. So multiply that by how many people bank at Bank of America? Millions. So you got $100, that deposit. That $100 turns into $1,000 based on the fractionalization of what they do in hypothecation. And then they insure for $250,000 on top of that. So they know you got that collateral. They say, here you go. They like, how much you need? And then they have other products. So now they take those products, they pull them together. And then now they got a big product, and then they sell your money back to you. And then you sign another application. Then you get another account number. Then it keeps rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. And they are now rolling in the billions of dollars of your, you see? Now, it says the said notes shall be obligations of the United States and shall be receivable by all national and member banks and Federal Reserve banks and for all taxes, customs, and other public dues. Okay? So taxes, customs, and other public dues are obligations of the United States and shall be receivable by all national and member banks. Make of that what you will. I ain't going to go that deep on that. They shall be redeemed in lawful money on demand at the Treasury Department of the United States in the city of Washington, District of Columbia, or at any Federal Reserve bank. Is anybody redeeming anything? On demand. 31 USC 5118. But it says that the secretary may redeem Federal Reserve notes. Don't have to. Now, here's your code, 12 USC. So Title 12 of the United States Code deals with the Federal Reserve Act. That's the codification. All right. All right. Now, application for notes by Federal Reserve banks. Any Federal Reserve bank may make an application to the local Federal Reserve agent for such amount of the Federal Reserve notes herein before provided for as it may require. Such application shall be accompanied with a tender to the local Federal Reserve agent of collateral in amount equal to the sum of the Federal Reserve notes, thus applied for and issued pursuant to such application. Now, Tender definition in the UCC. Now, tender of payment. If tender of payment of an obligation to pay an instrument is made to a person entitled to enforce the instrument, the effect of tender is governed by a principle of law applicable to tender of payment under a simple contract. Tender. That's Article 3, 603. Right? What is Article 3 under? Negotiable instruments. Definitions. Let's see if we got tender in here. Is tender in here? Is tender in here? I don't think it is. They don't have tender. They don't have tender in there. But what we can do is, nope. We can go right here real quick. Hold on just a second. Let me come back here. Let's go back to this place right here. Check it out. I'm going to my Black's Law Fourth. I don't want to change out the screen. I'm just going to come down here to Black's Law Fourth and I'm going to read it to you. Just take my word for it. You won't see it, but just take my word for it. All right, let's go up here. D. Okay. All right. So, tender, Black's Law Fourth Dictionary, means an offer of money, the act by which one produces and offers to a person holding a claim or demand against him the amount of money which he considers and admits to be due in satisfaction of such claim or demand without any stipulation or condition. So a tender is an offer of money. Article 3 says what? It is under negotiable instruments. Okay, so when we come back here, this actually says that Article 3 deals with negotiable instrument. So under the circumstance, you're dealing with Federal Reserve notes, you're dealing with fractional money. And with fractional money, you're dealing with something that's not just a fraction of what the amount is, what a dollar is under the Coinage Act. This is why you have on your dollar bill, you have two signatures. You have one signature on the left, you have one signature on the right. Whose name is on the left, whose name is on the right. Usually the treasurer name is on the, let me pull something out real quick. Let me pull some of these things out real quick. Okay, so the treasurer is on the left. The treasurer is on the left. And the secretary is on the right. All right, whatever that means. But if you actually look at the dollar bill, you'll see two different seals. Those seals mean something. But I just want you to know about the negotiable instruments, right? So Negotiable Instruments Act, Bill of Exchange Act, one and the same. They have the same meanings within that. At no point in time you're looking at gold or otherwise. But 31 USC 5118 and 5119 talks about those redeemable things. Title 12 USC, United States Code 411, deals with redeeming unlawful money. So if I get a check, for an example, I get a check for my job. I write on the back of that check, redeem unlawful money, 12 USC 411, and give it to them. Write it on the front, write it on the back. You have a memo part. Make sure they understand that. Make sure that you restrict your name. Make sure that they know that you are either administrator or authorized personal rep. You see what I'm saying? And stop giving out your autograph like you play in the big leagues or something. Just write your name. Simple. Now, under the circumstances, everybody, look. So we're good with that, right? We'll just leave that right there with the Federal Reserve. Now, where to go? All right. Now, we go over here because we're dealing with this. You talked about 26 USC 163. What is interest? This is what I deal with all the time. Try to tell people. I ain't never read this code before. I'm going to be honest with you. Okay, so interest. A general rule. There shall be allowed as a deduction all interest paid or accrued within taxable year on indebtedness. All interest paid or accrued within the taxable year on indebtedness. Let's go here. Let's look up the definition. What indebtedness is. Search. There we go. All right. Indebtedness. Something owed to another. The sum owed. Debts. Collectively. Collective. Why can I say that? Collectively. Damn. Whew. State of owing money. Being in debt. Okay. So if it's legal tender for all debts, public and private, let's see if we understand what he's saying. Let me see if I could do this. So he's saying, he said, don't know about this, don't know about this, don't know about this. We looked up those things, we typed it in, we did the research. Now he brought up this code. So based on what the Federal Reserve Act said, all right, so interest. So he started off with interest. So if we know that legal tender, right? Federal Reserve notes is legal tender for all debts, public and private. It also said all debts are obligations of the United States, right? And upon demand can be redeemable with the Federal Reserve Bank or with the Treasury. Okay. But what is interest? Let's go back to it. So there shall be allowed as a deduction all interest paid or accrued within the taxable year on indebtedness. So that means, or let me ask a question first. Does that mean to y'all that all the indebtedness by that definition is interest? Is principal interest? Well, it seems like this is what it's saying because the debt is on principal and interest. Just sticking to a mortgage here. Let's stick with that. It's nice and easy. So we got principal amount, you got an interest that's being paid as well, principal and interest. You have those things going on. Boom. Here we go. All right. So that's 26 USC 163. Interest. So it's safe to say that interest is, well, indebtedness, which we know. Let's look at it again. Okay. Let's go with this one. Let's go with 3. State of owing money, being in debt. Okay, everybody's in debt. Everybody has debt. So that means the debt that we're paying is interest. Interest that is an obligation of the United States, and also that obligation with the Federal Reserve notes that can be redeemable. Okay, I think we all got that. We all grown those here. All right, so let's click on interest here. Let's go down a little bit. Let's click on interest. What is interest? All right. Anybody notice? Interest. 3, investment interest for purpose of this subsection. A, in general, the term investment interest means any interest allowable as a deduction under this chapter. determined without regard to paragraph 1, which is paid or accrued on indebtedness properly allocable to property held for investment. Exceptions: the term investment interest shall not include any qualified residence interest, as defined in section H3 or 2, any interest which is taken into account under section 469 in computing income or loss from a passive activity of the taxpayer. Personal property used in short sale for purpose of this paragraph, the term interest includes any amount allowable as a deduction in connection with personal property used in a short sale. Okay. So interest is considered to be investment, an investment interest. You remember I always say ROI, return on your investment. You ever notice that 1040 tax returns, these tax returns have return at the end of it? I know I said tax returns. These tax forms have a return at the end of it. What is that return? If you look it up online, it's going to say it's taxes that need to be returned back to the IRS. But wait a minute, or to the Treasury, need to be paid to the United States. But wait a minute, it says that the government has the obligation. But yeah, but who is to pay that tax? Because if we're in debt and we're paying debts because we got to pay something to get things to be done. You got to pay to get the lights turned on. You got to pay to put gas in your car. You got to pay to buy a car. You got to pay to get a house. You got to pay to keep the house. You got to pay to keep the car. It's a debt. In order for you to get this, you must pay me. That means that is a debt. If the deal is not done, I walk away from the lot with the car, or I'll walk away from the bank with a cut check to make the payment. That's a debt. Okay? But this says investment. Investment. So if we are to invest in something, then we should be getting a return on our investment. We should not be walking away with nothing or with 10%. I gave you 100. I got 110 back. I mean, I didn't get 100 back. I only got 10 back. My tax return. Tax, interest, interest, tax. Let me show you something. Real quick. Now, this is 26 USC Code 6304, Fair Tax Collection Practices. Let me show you something else. USC 60. Now, this is 15 USC, chapter 41, debt collection practices. This is the codification for the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. All right. Most consumer law is under Title 15. But let's just deal with fair debt collection practices. Okay. So let's go right here. Let's go to notes. Right? The short title. This subchapter known as the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Okay. Now we come back over here to 6304. It says fair tax collection practices. Okay. So what's the difference? Is there a difference, or is just the venue that's different? Right? The venue is different. So under Title 26, it's tax. Under Title 15, it's debt. right? It's debt. What's the difference? The name. That's it. Principles still need to be followed. I have an article from the the Inspector General over the Tax Administration. The Inspector General over the Tax Administration. He wrote way back in, I think, in 214, why they brought in 6304, because they abuse their position with the Internal Revenue Service on how they collect taxes. All right. Now, skip back over here. Where are we at? So, it's an investment. So now we know what the general rule is. Okay, so I see what he's saying. And I saw how he presented. He said, don't do this and don't do that. I think that's just his way of staying clean. You know what I mean? So yeah, I get where he's going with it. I get where he's going with it. So this is making some sense to me. Why he said that, and I kind of see where he's going with it as well. So let's book it. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the corner. Appreciate everybody being here. Let me turn the corner real quick. Let me pull up. Let me pull up my PDF. All right, so we on the screen. All right, we got the video up. So just so you guys can really see, right, tender. And then we'll be done in a minute. I'm trying to, not trying. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I keep it sharp and brief. You know what I'm saying? Not be too long. Put it together. You know what I'm saying? So that way we can knock it down, and then y'all could just build off that. Okay, so right here you have the root word tend, right? And when we come down here, it says in Old English law to tender or offer. So tender, offer, synonymous. So what does tender mean? And if you pay attention in court, they say tender. Do you tender that into the court? Yep, tendered it. It's an offer. See, this is where you in commercial language. Wait a minute, what you mean tender? What are we dealing with here? I mean, it could become exhausting. I mean, if you're not built for it, you know. But you got to be on your A game. You got to be sharp, because they're looking for any other way to get past you. All right, so tender, an offer of money, or not just get past you, but put you right back in the jurisdiction they want, so they could dictate the program. An offer of money, the act by which one produces and offers to a person. Let me read this again. An offer of money. The act, right? So this is the verb. Offer of money. That's an act. It's an action, I should say. The act by which one produces and offers to a person. We know what a person is now. We know what a person is. They have categories. Holding. Uh-oh. It's too large. Holding, right? Holding. Claim. To a person holding claim or demand against him the amount of money which he considers and admits to be due. Considers. Well, I think you owe me $1,500 this month. The next month, I think you owe me $1,800 this month. Yeah. Oh, we got to add these fees here, this here, and that here. Yeah, we doing that. Yeah. So you're gonna owe me that this month. What that sound like to you? A puppet on a string, right? In satisfaction of such claim or demand. So it's a claim or demand. Claim, demand, considers, admits, claim, demand. Does that make it valid? No. If you go look at your instrument of who you're paying on a car or on a house, on a credit, well, no, not the credit card. It's for revolving credit card, it's the same one. And it's active, a house or a car. You paying somebody else that you didn't do the initial contract on. They are making claims and demands on what they consider or admit to be due. But they have no claim and they have no right to demand anything. Why? Because their name is not on the original contract that was signed by you. And even if they was there, and it's the same people collecting, had they ever the right position and claim and right, if I could say that correctly, to demand anything from you? That's another question. It's a bigger one too. The offer of performance, not performance itself, and when unjustifiably refused, places other party in default and permits party making tender to exercise remedies for breach of contract. That is under 3603B, right? I just read you UCC 3-603. Right? Now let's go back to 3603. Let's go back to 3603. All right. Let's go back to 3603. Let me go to the entire screen. Let's go back to 3603B. Remember, I'm gonna read, we're gonna show this again on this part right here. Right here. Let's read this again. It says the offer of performance. So that tender is an offer, right? A performance to do something. So that's to make payment, not performance itself, right? So not performance itself, it's the offer of performance. See what I'm saying? And when unjustifiably refused, places other party in default and permits party making tender to exercise remedies for breach of contract. Remedy. You see what I'm saying? People say, well, how are you going to make the claim? Here you go. This is why you read these definitions, and there's case law behind it. So if you tender payment and they refuse payment, you can sue them for that. And guess what that does? Let's look. Let's look here. Let's look here. Here we go. Oh, that ain't the one. Boom. Okay, let's go. Wait a minute. Go back. Go back. There we go. Tender of payment. Now, it says right here, B, if tender of payment of an obligation to pay an instrument is made to a person entitled to enforce it. Remember, it said claim, demand, consider. Because anybody that is making that claim or demand needs to prove that they have the right or are entitled to enforce the obligation or the payment. The instrument and the tender is refused. There is discharge to the extent of the amount of the tender, of the obligation of an endorser or accommodation party having a right of recourse with respect to the obligation to which the tender relates. So let's read that again. You take that definition, you put it here, right? If tender of payment of an obligation to pay an instrument is made to a person entitled to enforce the instrument and the tender is refused, there is discharge. Now let's see what discharge means. Let's see what that means. Come on, give me the quick. All right. Discharge in commercial law refers to the termination of a contract's obligation, freeing parties from further duties through methods like full performance, mutual agreement, breach, frustration, or operation of law. Now, watch this. Now, just entertain me for a second. Hear me out. Hear me out. We got that, right? We got that. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to deal with the suspect classification. Before we get into Black's Law again, we are going to go to suspect classification. All right. Remember, 14th Amendment, right? 14th Amendment. 14th Amendment. People are coming at you under this category, under this title of what you might be, a defendant. Black, Negro, colored, whatever it might be. Black, African American, or whatever they want to call you. Suspect. They use these terminologies in their police reports, in all their reports, and everything that they're saying in their language when they bring their complaint or their claim to the court. And then when these police are writing this stuff down in the police report, what you're going to have to do, because you sign it as an affiant, that means that you have typed up an affidavit and you're sworn under oath and under penalty of perjury. But see, it's a lot of work for a lot of people, so they'll just brush over it. I don't want to deal with all that. Okay, well, if you don't want to deal with it, don't talk about it. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, who am I to say who can talk and who can't talk? But nevertheless, here's suspect classification. Suspect classification refers to a class of individuals who have been historically subject to discrimination. The Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment imposes a restraint on the governmental use of suspect classification. There are 4 generally agreed upon suspect classification: race, religion, national origin, and citizenship status. However, this is not an exhaustive list. All right. The Supreme Court encapsulates this feature through the concept of discrete and insular minorities, which are individuals that are so disfavored and out of the political mainstream that the courts must make extra efforts to protect them. The courts must make extra efforts to protect them because the political system will not. Now people say, well, you're going to play victim. You're playing victim. You're playing victim. Well, I'll be damned. That is not victim. That's a fact that's in court. This is case law that's saying that. That means there has been evidence of it being done. People say, oh, you're playing victim. What? Talk to these mummies and daddies that had their children knocked off and killed by law enforcement officers there to serve and protect the people. Just talk to them. So, well, oh, you're playing victim. What? See, this is where people get it misconstrued. If the political system is not doing it, that means the political system is the one that's placing the titles, the suspect classification titles on these people in order to not protect them. This is how you get around it. This is the conversation with the Indian Citizenship Act, with all the things that came on with federal territory and the states allowing these trespass and occupation, and then utilize that in order to discriminate against a certain class of people. Okay? This is not victimhood. This is a fact. All right? They call us gangsters. They call us thugs. They call us black. They call us niggas. They call us all kind of shit. Got it? That is a premise for them to do whatever they want. But you know now, right? You know now that this is it. This is it. That is not just any court. That's all courts. If there's anything of that matter to be in their mind, to think that is any language of that sort, they must identify it and do something about it and make sure that this political system has their I's dotted and their T's crossed. They have verified statements, and everything that they have done up to this process is tip-top and above board. And 99.9% of the time, it is not. So, let's see what this next one says. The use of suspect classification is reviewed by the courts when the governmental action has a disproportionate or disparate impact on a particular group. That's about as plain as language as you can get. This is saying in Village of Willowbrook versus Oleg that the governmental action, that the government, let's say it this way, that the government has a disproportionate and or disparate impact on a particular group. You see what I'm saying? So, got that. Now, when we get over here to penal, right? Let's go find penal. You know, like penal code. See what a penal is. And think about Tinder. Don't get Tinder out your mind. Don't get Tinder out of your mind. And then we'll be done. What was it, 4:15? I'm doing pretty good. Penal. There we go. Okay, so penal, punishable, inflicting a punishment, containing a penalty, or relating to a penalty. Okay, penal action, an action upon a penal statute, an action for the recovery of a penalty given by statute. an action which enforces a forfeiture or penalty for transgressing the law. The term penal is broader than criminal and relates to actions which are not necessarily criminal as well. Not necessarily criminal as well. But when they bring that penal to you, it's automatically assumed that's what we're doing. The term penalty in its broad sense is a generic term which includes fines, money, as well as other kinds of punishment. In its narrowest sense, it is the amount recovered for violation of the statute, law of the state, or a municipal ordinance, which violation may or may not be a crime. Now, what is forfeiture? The word forfeiture is frequently used in civil as well as criminal law, and it is also used in actions for a penalty, although the action is a civil one. So in civil, this is dealing with a contract or money. It's not dealing with, but you see it's saying criminal in there, but they really talk about civil and money and forfeiture and money. Let's go over here. Let's go over here. Let's go to penal sum. Wait, hold on. Okay, can't pass this one up. A penal bill, an instrument formerly in use by which a party bound himself to pay a certain sum or sums of money, or to do certain acts, or in default thereof to pay a certain specified sum by way of penalty. This termed a penal sum. That's where I was going to go to. These instruments have been superseded by the use of a bond in a penal sum with conditions. But what is this certain acts, right? You got certain acts. You got certain acts. See, that's when you go to prison. See, those certain acts, that's when you go do that in hard labor and you do that hard time for amount of years or months or however you up in there. Those are the certain acts. Now, what is a penal bond? A promise to pay, a named sum of money. A promise to pay. Wait a minute. Hold on. Let's go back. Where we at? Where? There we go. Hold on. Let's go back here. Let's go back here. Commercial code. Let's go definition. Negotiable instruments. There we go. Negotiable instrument. Uh-oh. That's what I'm saying. It says penal bond. That's promise to pay. So, negotiable instrument. Except as otherwise in subsection C and D, negotiable instrument means an unconditional promise or order to pay a fixed amount of money with or without interest or other charges described in the promise or order if it is payable to bearer. All right. So a penal bond is a promise to pay. So where's this time coming from? What are you doing time when pretty much all you got to do is pay the bond and it'd be done? Based on what penal means, penalty, forfeiture, penal bond, penal bill. Well, let's go back over here real quick. Let's go past that. Let's go to penal sum. All right. Penal sum, a sum agreed upon in a bond to be forfeited if the condition of the bond is not fulfilled. So, if you don't pay the bond, they take the body. So they forfeit the bond and take the body. That's why you say every time, where's he at? Bond forfeited, go get him. But people don't never pay the full bond. All you do is pay a fraction of the bond. Pay 10% instead of paying the whole thing. Or tender the whole thing. Now let's move back up to penal servitude. So this is what is going on. In English criminal law is a punishment which consists in keeping an offender in confinement and compelling him to labor. So you're working on a plantation called a prison or penitentiary for X amount of time to do what? Labor. Or what they would call also restitution. Okay? So tender. But the whole thing, people think that there's a crime and this and that, and all this stuff is going on behind it, but none of this has been disclosed. This is why people don't read, and they expect you not to read. But what you do is you go pay somebody $20,000, $30,000 to read for you. And all they're saying is, yeah, I can get that knocked down. I can get that dismissed, or I can negotiate them. And we'll get you summary probation. And when they over here counting money behind you, fingerprints, signature, booking number, case number, DOC number, everything. Bracelet. Yeah. Money. But people want to get their emotions involved in it. It's money. All you got to do is just know it, not understand it, but just know these words, know what it is, and then be able to express it wisely. I mean, at least at the end of the day, just know what situation you're in. You know what I mean? Treat them like you would treat the next brother or sister on the street and look them upside down like, what's up? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do them like that. Watch how you feel. You'll feel a whole lot better. Now, just wanted to show this real quick. All right. Now, just to kind of be clear on this. Negro law. You see? Where did that law go? Where did the law go? Did it go somewhere, or is it still here? Or is it up under another name? I mean, based on suspect classification, I would think that it's right there. That Negro law, suspect classification, kind of the same thing. Because politics, it says politics, the government, are not going to come to that aid. So the court must come to that aid and protect, because the government will not. The government will not. The attorneys will not. The district attorney won't. The attorney general won't. None of them will. The judges, nobody. Everybody is in on it together. To do what? To make sure that a specific class of people that they deem to be beneath them or not, or to be deemed not to be protected or not to be given that equal protection, so I know people like to get into this part right here, to section 4, which is a good starting part. You know who they will start, who was there at that time. This explains who was actually there at that time and what they were considered to be by their terms. And this being 1740 makes good sense. Now, the one part that I mentioned yesterday is dealing with prima facie. Prima facie. So all this is going on looks, what people look like. All right. So if we go to prima facie, everybody knows what that means, but let's go to it. So we get a clear understanding or knowing of what prima facie is. And I promise we'll be done. There we go. Okay. So prima facie, right here, says at first sight, on the first appearance, on the face of it, so far as can be judged from the first disclosure, presumably, a fact presumed to be true unless disproved by some evidence to the contrary. Prima facie case, such as will suffice until contradicted and overcome by other evidence. A case which has proceeded upon sufficient proof that that stage where it will support finding if evidence to contrary is disregarded. Prima facie evidence, evidence good and sufficient on its face. Such evidence as, in the judgment of the law, is sufficient to establish a given fact or the group or chain of facts, constituting the party's claim or defense, and which, if not rebutted or contradicted, will remain sufficient. So since we're clear on that, in all situations, we're dealing with 1740. This is why this has been renegotiated and not remixed, but moved under another name. Just like you don't have the American Colonization Society anymore. They changed the name so it fits. Instead of being called the New Deal, Biden called it Build Back Better, right? Or he called it the Green New Deal. The Green Deal, something like that. It's like they changed the name up, but it still has the same foundational principles. Okay? So, under these circumstances, even though they're utilizing these terminologies and these items or whatever, it still doesn't mean that it's you. That just means what they plan on doing within their circles with you. But was that disclosed? It's like the prima facie. They talk about the Dred Scott case. Was that disclosed? I didn't know nothing about that. What is it? Oh, well, we're getting you another to the Negro. What's a Negro? What's a mulatto? What's a mestizo? I don't know nothing about that. Well, we consider you to be that. Well, I'm not that. Can you prove otherwise that I am that? Well, we can do whatever we want with you. Oh, okay. Oh, so you want to put me in servitude. You want to treat me like a peon. Oh, well, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. But that's where everything starts, from the introduction. People get into the automatics, and once you don't express that, you waive it, and now you are subject to whatever they're going to do to you. Just so you know. Just so you know. You will be subject to whatever they're going to do to you if you do not correct the record. All right, we'll leave it there. All right, how did I do? How did I do? Let me get rid of some of this stuff here. Boom, boom. Let me get rid of some of this stuff. How did I do, y'all? Did I make good time? Did I make good time? There we go. Boom. We'll leave it there. Oh, 2 hours and 44. I did pretty good. Black Law, what you mean? American Goddess, what you mean? I'm gonna put the thing in the chat. What is it, 4? Put the thing in the chat. Y'all come up. Y'all got any questions or anything on the build? We go from there. I ain't gonna pin it to the top. We're gonna make it quick. Yep. Yep. All right. Appreciate that. Inja said it was pretty good. Yep. Nice. Appreciate that. Yep. RJ22 OG. Yep. Yep. That's all I can do. Legal tender, FRNs, American Goddess. Yep. Yep. It's interesting how this system works. And I think it was made complicated like that on purpose. And you know, everybody has pledged the oath to the government. Government first, everything else second. Interest is time. All right. Yep. Interest is time. Yep. You're actually right. Yep. They beyond treacherous. They beyond treacherous. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, like I said, you tried that lawful money before and never got it. Yeah. But now you know where to go. In order to get that done, you got to go to one of the Federal Reserve banks or the Treasury and tell them you want to redeem your FRNs. You can even do it in a check. Like you get paid from your job, you can take that check, endorse the check, and have it cash at a Federal Reserve bank or the Treasury and tell them you want lawful money. They're going to say, what type of lawful money do you want? Yeah. You can still get gold certificates. It says it. Want me to show you? Show you. Let me show you. Show you real quick. All right. So this is obligations. Obligations or other security of the United States defined. The term obligation or other security of the United States includes all bonds, certificates of indebtedness. All right, we talked about indebtedness, national bank currency, Federal Reserve note, Federal Reserve bank notes, coupons, United States notes, Treasury notes, gold certificates, silver certificates, fractional notes, certificates of deposit, bills, checks, or drafts for money. Even stamps. Did you know you can get your stamps and go get those redeemed as well in lawful money? Bet you didn't know that. There you go, Nunya. Tell them what you want. They'll get it to you. See what I'm saying? Now, since we're doing that, we'll just keep it on this page. Here we go, 31, USC 51, 18. See that? Gold clauses and consent to sue. Gold clause means a provision in or related to an obligation, alleging to give the obligee a right to require payment in gold. B, a particular United States coin or currency, or United States money measured in gold or a particular United States coin or currency. See what I'm saying? There you go. Gotta make that make sense. You know what I'm saying? There you go. 31 USC 5119, redemption and cancellation of currency. It says, the Secretary of the Treasury prescribes, remember what prescribes means, power. With the approval of the president, the secretary may not redeem United States currency, including Federal Reserve notes and circulating notes of Federal Reserve banks and national banks. Right? In gold. So it says it may not redeem United States currency in gold. See, that's that gold clause. See, that's that 6102. That's what that did. That 51, that 590, that House Joint Resolution. Just saying. Just giving y'all a little tidbit. Now, let's finish this whole thing out. It says, however, the secretary shall redeem gold certificates owned by the Federal Reserve banks at times and in amounts the secretary decides are necessary to maintain the equal purchasing power of each kind of United States currency. When redemption in gold is authorized, the redemption may be made only in gold bullion bearing the stamp of United States Mint or a say office in an amount equal at the time of redemption to the currency presented for redemption. Now, what will be considered a say office? Let's see what that means. Let's see what that means. Or action. Search. Okay, so an assay office, institution that tests the purity of precious metals and stamp hallmarks on them. Okay. Compare the current historical assay offices in U.S., UK, Ireland. Okay. All right. So that will be an assay office. But yeah, there you go. So these are some of the basic fundamentals that are to be utilized in dealing with the United States, making sure that you're able to redeem or you're able to make sure that you're able to recoup, or what we say we get a return on your investment, is just by understanding these certain terms. But then on the other end of the perspective is making sure that when you are in these transactions, you make sure you get I say it multiple times, that you get a clear idea and knowing of what situation you're getting yourself into. And the question is there any other options outside the one that you're giving me? And if they say no, got them, coach. All right, y'all. We're just going to play this one. This is Draco. And like I said, on the next one.
No movie I'm the coach, quotes coded in oak with a ghost loaded focus. Chrome in the coat, king with the cloak, smoking that hocus pocus. Infinite styles, pivot and pile up the mileage. I'm wild with the science. You see the line on my avatar, iron jaw pride. I ought to devour the silence. Why you niggas steady lying? Got me laughing hard, satire and fraud. I fire the squad. Wise get crossed when I'm sparring with all the guards. Author of art, carving a mark in the bark of the market at large. Target the sharks, heart of a Spartan. I sharpen the margin with bars. You rather bargain and dodge. I'd rather you come get your taxes done. Black suit, back room, facts in a stack. I'm relaxing the maximum. Get out of the pocket, the profit of rocket. Then I just might tax you punks. Bracket your funds, subtracting in chunks. Reacting to action, you're begging to punch. Sometimes my community, hard-headed, scarred, dreading the lessons. I chart head and start spreading the message, embedded in pressure. Sovereign living, I'm private with it. No corporate percentage. Discharging debt with a pen stroke. You still don't notice the vision. I've been telling y'all you don't want to debate me. Weighty and ready. Great with machetes, linguistically shredding the petty. Grab these 15 acres. Landscape major, plan made paper. Land patent stamped and sacred since my campaign greater. I ain't talking about Ice-T when I say that I can show you law and order. Court recorder, I sort the torture, contort the border. I eat the case, beat the state, leave a trace of the raw supporter. Briefcase aura, got your baby mama thinking that I'm a lawyer. Seminole Indian sentiment, militant on sovereign soil. Private enrollment, tribal component. I'm the boss, you trying to employ it.